Alrighty. Ooh. How we doing? You ready? Oh, man. Wasn't the comfiest night's sleep, but hey-ho, that's camping for you. What a beautiful day. You ready to hit the, I was going to say road, hit the path again? What day are we on now? Day 3 of the Great Glen Way. I was just about to say the West Highland Way then, but it's not. It's the Great Glen Way. Lesser known. Most people, when they do the West Highland Way, stop short. They reach Fort William and go, that's quite enough of that. I need sleep. To be honest, we might feel exactly the same when we reach Inverness. Which, I don't know, hopefully we will in the next couple of days. Feeling okay? Ready to get walking again? Morag, how about yourself? Good, that's what I thought. Hope you've not minded Morag coming with us on this walk. As you will know, she is a fairly adventurous wee cat. She spends more time leading the way than either of us do anyway. Right, hen, shall we? Laces tied, bag all packed. It should only really be a shortish day before we can set up camp again. Hopefully once we reach the shores of Loch Ness, we can find a bit of shelter and chill out for a bit. We've had a couple of long days. I think we deserve to take this next one a little easier. But we will see how we get on. Such a beautiful day, isn't it? The spring weather really wakes everything up, doesn't it? Well, we've got our own soft repetition of boots on damp gravel for company. And the tiny metallic sound of Morag's wee tag whenever she jumps up onto stuff. Stone walls, foreign logs. It's quite comforting though, don't you think? I've got to make sure that a rucksack straps, are nice and tight to the body. Helps with the posture, doesn't it? You wouldn't think it would make much difference, but eventually the back does get a bit tired if the bag's a bit low. Feet are feeling it after the last couple of days. I'm sure we'll be needing a solid rest and we can treat ourselves to a hotel perhaps at the end of this. It's the least I reckon we deserve. How have you enjoyed the last few days anyway? I know you've wanted to do this for a long time. Yeah, the Great Glen Way isn't done so much. The West Highland Way obviously is very famous for it being so long and stretching all the way from basically Glasgow all the way up to Fort William. And it is beautiful, of course. But the Great Glen Way doesn't get walked as often, because, like I said, Fort William seems to be the destination for most people. Mind that log. But it's a shame, really. The scenery only gets better as you head further north, and as you can tell, there's hardly anybody else here. It's so eerily quiet compared to the shores of Loch Lomond. Which I think is quite nice, especially when these days the West Highland Way is so busy. It really is busy. I walked a little bit of it a couple of years ago, with Christine actually. And Christine's done a different bit, the Fort William North section. Sorry, Fort William North. Where's Fort William North? Just south of Fort William, to Fort William. And the bits that we did, honestly, every 5 minutes we were passing people going one direction or the other, which is wonderful because, you know, why not get out? And it's just amazing that it's attracted so many people, and mostly people from other countries rather than locals, to be honest. But either way, it's still nice that it's happening. But it becomes quite difficult to know where to spend the night, because whenever you reach a natural camping place, it's already full of lots of people, so you kind of have to move on a lot of the time. Not so the case with the Great Glen Way, which leaves Fort William, and if you remember a couple of days ago we walked past Tor Castle and the Schengen Aqueduct. That's along the river that heads northeast all the way to the southern end of Lochie, which obviously is the lochiest loch that ever did loch. Some say it's the original loch, hence the name Lochie, but others suppose it was named maybe second or third, I don't know. Once they'd seen one or two lochs, they definitely decided that this is in fact the lochiest loch. So it was then named Lochie. It's quite a lochie loch, actually, once you do see it in person. You arrive at it and go, that's a loch. But we spent most of the last day prior to today traversing the coast of that. It's quite pretty, it's quite deep, because that is the one of the first bodies of water we come across along that fault line, which, if you look at the map, it goes all the way from the south-west of Scotland all the way up to Inverness. It is like somebody has drawn a line of lochs, which I guess kind of marks the entire the entire length of the Great Glen Way. Anywho, so yeah, we went up the banks of Lochie, past Letterfinley, then the Lagan Lochs, which were very pretty actually. One of my favourite parts, to be fair. And this morning, where did we stay? It was just beyond Invergarry Castle, wasn't it? Yeah. Nice spot there, actually. Invergarry's usually where most would either continue walking to Skye, if they were going to head that way, over the very top of the moors. That's near Glengarry. The viewpoint, it's quite famous actually, because there's a monument not far from there. But yeah, that's definitely the direction people head in if they're going to Skye, whether they're on foot or in their car. So you say goodbye to the sky dwelling folks, and then it is the quietest section of the lot that we're on just now. And hopefully in the next 15-20 minutes, if we keep up a good pace, we'll get to Fort Augustus. Morag, you good? Good. She is fine. I hope you didn't mind taking her in your jacket yesterday. It did get a bit rainy and she doesn't so like the rain. Not quite as much as you and me anyway. I really don't mind it when it rains, so long as it's not absolutely hoovering it down. Or that dreachy, misty rain that soaks you through to the skin even though it's basically invisible. But the in-betweeny rain is actually very nice. I find it very refreshing. It was quite funny yesterday actually. Morag was walking in front of us, wasn't she, when the sun was going down, and her orange fur was glowing copper in the sunset light. Wasn't that right, hen? But before then it was a bit wet underfoot. We were going through a muddy bit, and you could just see her wee paw prints appearing briefly in the earth before the rain softened them away. It was very nice. And it was also lovely to see her walking so confidently, especially on those narrow walls beside the first canals. It's kind of like she owned the place. She would stare into the forest as though she saw something ancient and harmless. It can be a little unsettling the way cats do that, eh? They sort of stare into dark places as if there's something right there, but there's nothing. Or at least we tell ourselves that. But apart from the stare, she didn't seem to act on it, so that's okay. She does seem to have a habit of curling up as soon as we stop walking though, doesn't she? I guess she is used to, well, sleeping in the garden at Black Hill and curling up by the fireside, so as soon as she spots herself a little comfort, I guess she would be rude not to take it. That's also cats for you, isn't it? But I think she definitely loved the warmth of you carrying her inside your jacket during the drizzle yesterday. I know I certainly liked it the day before. It's like having a little toasty hot water bottle right by your chest. Look at her go. Her ears are always twitching, aren't they? Any little bird sound or the sound of tinkling water. So yeah, Fort Augustus soon, hopefully. How are your boots feeling today? I know they were nipping a bit as we finished the day yesterday. Even the comfiest of walking boots do eventually hurt. There's only so much money you can spend in a shop expecting a magic carpet beneath your feet on these long walks. I think it just delays the inevitable sometimes, but you're doing really well. Yeah, we might have a couple of blisters at the end of this, but nothing that keen adventurers like ourselves cannot handle. Breathe in that fresh, foresty air. It's nice to hear the sound of the trees and the birds alongside the trickles of water. I think we're still basically following the river. We've moved away from it just now, but it's not far. You can see all the heather around our legs, can't you? Even when you're not on high moors, heather still takes solid grasp wherever you go in the Highlands. But it's not alone though. There's so many pine needles softening our steps as we go. Ferns are uncurling either side of the path. I think they do that whenever the weather gets a little warmer. Or maybe it's a daylight thing, I'm not so sure. It's kind of like when flowers open, when the sun comes out and close a little, when it gets shadier or later in the day. But the moss on all of these stones is so thick, isn't it? In fact, he used a stone yesterday as a pillow, which doesn't sound like it would be particularly comfortable, does it? However, when the moss is as thick as it is, it does just as good a job as downy duck feathers. There's still a lingering of wet earth smell after yesterday's rain, isn't there? As you know, we're never far from rain in these parts of the country. I'm just going to have to zip up my jacket a little more, because there's a bit of a wind coming down the glen just now, but I'm sure once we get to the shelter of Fort Augustus, hopefully we'll have passed the most of it. You can hear the ravens calling across the hills, can't you? It's kind of mingling with the odd baa from the sheep far away, but we're not so near farmland at the moment. We're fairly on our own. Probably more likely to hear a rogue motorbike across the hills than sheep at the moment. Because this is a popular road to take your bikes on. Ask me how I know. The water running beneath small bridges over there, you can just about hear it. It's kind of mixing with the breeze through the tallest branches of the Scots pine. Kind of like a turbulent whisper. Is it water? Is it wind? It's hard to know. I've been quite lucky with the weather so far, though. It looks as though it might rain, don't know, in an hour, perhaps. Some darker clouds over there to the west, just over the glen. Weather changes so often and so frequently here. It's not worth ever getting in a worry about it. It's going to do what it'll do. But if the weather... Sorry, not the weather. If the wind is blowing, then even if we do get a bit wet, it will dry us out fairly quickly. There's some low clouds snagging the tops of the mountains over there. So the cloud is pretty low, actually. It might mean we get caught in it as we climb a little higher along Loch Ness, but you never know. As I say that, look, bit of a gap in the clouds, and here comes the sun. I think it's just about to hit us, actually. Make sure you get your face in it. Oh. There she is. How nice is that? Wee. Instant heat. Oh, wow. That's so lovely. It really reaches your bones, doesn't it? Straight away. Oh, man. I might just stop for a minute. Soak that in. Feel every last sun ray reach your skin. I could stay here forever. How about you? Yeah. Oh. Morag's already curled up. She knows an opportunity when she sees one. Get yourself in that sun trap pen. She looks so comfortable, bless her. Well, I guess we can take a minute or two. You want a drink of water? No worries. It's better. Even though it's not too hot, you still get through a fair bit of water, don't you? It's thirsty work walking 20 miles a day. Few more seconds. Looks like the cloud's about to blow over anyway, so we are as well soaking it in whilst we have it. Maybe just the sun talking, but everything here feels so soft, doesn't it? The heat feels soft. The moss feels soft. Even the stone walls, the fallen trees, even the silence itself is like a soft silence. The Highlands really do seem to absorb harshness instead of echoing it. Yeah, it's lovely. Oh, there we go, we've just lost the sun. Oh well. All good things need to come to an end. I'm sure it'll come back out. I'm gonna get those matches wet, we'll need them later. Alright, are you ready to go again? Morag, let's hop to it. Don't look so grumpy. On the road again. Just can't wait to get on the road again. Okay, Fort Augustus, we can't be far now. Surely only a mile or so. So yeah, I haven't really gone over the kind of the roots of the Great Glen Way, have I really? Well, as you know, the Highlands are filled with history that can be told quietly, almost mythically sometimes. Because even if it's straight to the point and factual, sometimes it just sounds like it was made up by some druid somewhere, or a man who lived in a cave. But yeah, the Great Glen Way follows the Great Glen Fault, which obviously is kind of named from the fault line that runs along here. And the glen was carved along this ancient geological line. Imagine the landscape slowly forming over millions and millions of years. The mountains rising and falling, and the tectonic plates pushing together, ending up as the glens that they are today, but after so long, the mountains splitting apart, long before people arrived. It's very strange to think that this entire valley or glen line began with the earth slowly pulling itself apart. It's greater than our imaginations can really fathom. We kind of just have to take nature's word for it. Obviously it didn't happen violently, but patiently and slowly, taking its time to form the perfect scenery. all over ages too large to imagine. Then, like we were yesterday, we began following the Caledonian Canal, which runs all the way to Loch Ness. That was built, I think, in the early 1800s by Mr. Thomas Telford, and it connects lochs all across Scotland, really. The canal locks open and close, which obviously helps control the water line. If we were on a narrow boat, not that we are, we would arrive, as we will see soon in Fort Augustus, at a certain level. We would be closed in with the locks on either side. And, oh, tell you what, we're nearly there. Why don't we just look at them and I'll explain the rest, or you can read a sign. A little bit of civilization, here we are. Oh, what a lovely little place. Yes, exactly, right. See up ahead, you can see, what, 6 or 7 different gates? Yeah, come here, come a bit closer. Right, so yes, here's the first lock. So, as you can see, this is, the water level here is a lot higher than that at the bottom, which is the beginnings of Loch Ness. Can't wait till we see that. And in between here there's about 5 different tiers or levels. So here you would pull your narrowboat into the top one. The lock gate would close in behind you, and then our tiny little section of water would then be drained really slowly down the way by opening the gate in front, and then the water levels of those two would then be the same. We would then motor forwards slightly into the frontmost lock, and that process would repeat. It's kind of like going along with your own little private water level each time and slowly draining it into the one below, so that you slowly drop until you reach the water level of the next largest body of water. So fascinating. So simple in execution when it's done before you, but there were some incredibly ingenious solutions made not very long ago. But the canal locks opening and closing kind of feels naturally meditative, doesn't it? It's lovely. Oh, see, can't believe we missed it. There's actually, look at that, there's one at the bottom. They're nearly there. Hello. Yes, wave to the kind strangers. There we go. They look like they're having a lovely day. So yeah, that man there is just winding the gate slowly open. You can hear it. And you can just about see the boat dropping slowly. There we go. Didn't think we'd see it in action, but there you are. Fascinating. The lock gates still move with the same slow certainty they've had for generations, haven't they? Wood, iron, water, gravity. Nothing seems rushed. And nothing seems wasted. Where's Morag off to? Where's she gone? Morag. Morag. Hello. Yeah, good. Thought we'd lost you there. Away sniffing in some grass. Well, I think we've got everything we need, don't we? It's a pretty little place, Fort Augustus. If I remember correctly, it started life in the 1700s as a pretty serious military fort, hence the name, built by the British government after the Jacobites. Because that was a pretty tumultuous time, wasn't it? Yeah, full of dark history, that corner of this world. It was basically just a giant "please stop rebelling" message in stone. I think the fort itself was named after Prince William Augustus, who was the Duke of Cumberland. But he wasn't necessarily like a beloved national treasure, that guy. I think he was more just like a stern headmaster with cannons and stuff. Cannons and horses. But over time, like many places that were strongholds, the fort itself was ruined and wrecked and disappeared. But the village itself stuck around and reinvented itself several times. Here, Morag, come on. Military outpost, obviously, at first. Then I think it was a monastery town. Then it just became a canal stop. And I guess these days it's kind of a tourist magnet, where people like ourselves stare at boats going through lochs for surprisingly long periods. But the slow and the simple things are often the best, aren't they? But so yeah, today it sits on the southern end of Loch Ness, meaning its economy is kind of powered now by still the canal engineering, ice cream, of course, but maybe not today because it's a little chilly. And of course, who doesn't know the possibility of a giant lake monster emerging at any given moment? So yeah, that was Fort Augustus, a place that went from guarding the Highlands with artillery to a place to watch narrow boats whilst eating fudge. How times change. I'm not complaining. I would rather be welcomed with ice cream than a cannonball to the face. Each to their own. Feet are getting a bit tired now, but I reckon we've not got too much longer to go. Hopefully, once we get out of the village here, we will see Loch Ness before us. This path seems to continue through some dark pines, actually. Oh yeah, there we are, just beyond it. Now we can see water. Lovely. Morag, you gonna walk ahead? But make sure you wait for us. That's a good girl. The sound of the water breathing against the shore is lovely, isn't it? The hills remain patient around us. Some places just seem to encourage quieter thoughts, don't they? The air smells a little richer now. Kind of like rain that's about to arrive. And a little peat from the moors either side of the lake. Lake? Loch, goodness me. Every step settles the mind a bit more. The canal seems to reflect little fragments of sunlight between the clouds. Nothing here is asking anything from us except just to keep walking slowly. This is nice. Well, finally, we have reached Loch Ness. Woohoo! Small celebration in order, I think. How about a wee snack? Yeah, I guess we could actually just wait. We could... tell you what we can do. We can, when we get to where we want to stay tonight, which I suppose won't be too much further, we can get a wee fire going with some wood and a little dry bracken. Hopefully we can find a bit that's not too wet from any rain. Get a wee fire going. I've got a little pack of marshmallows, so we can toast them, and we'll get a wee cup of tea on, and hopefully we can do that before any rain comes and swallows us whole. Sound good? Smashing. My memories of Loch Ness go back a really long way. Obviously, I grew up on Skye, so it was kind of our main place to visit if we ever needed any more than just basic shopping and whatnot. But for years and years, the journey across these banks just represented, well, adulty chores for one, because what 7-year-old loves going to Tesco to buy some tinned beans in bulk, but needs must. But the other side was just it meant leaving the island, and it meant adventure in that sense. And coming out of the woods, which the road still follows not far from us, and suddenly seeing this huge, historically integral stretch of water just reach endlessly from south to north was pretty special, to be honest. The road winds and winds up the coast, and sometimes you'd see a little more of the loch one moment, and then it would quietly disappear, and you'd kind of be peering through the trees, wondering when it's going to come back, and then eventually it would. And that cycle would seem to continue for ages, because everything seems like it takes a long time when you're young. Eventually I would just think, oh, when are we getting to Inverness? But it was only because at that point we'd already been in the car for about an hour and a half, so time for a break when you're small. Then there's all of these legends that sort of revolve around the Loch Ness, and most Scottish lochs, to be fair. But we never really got told them when we were young. They just sort of came into knowledge as time passed. Like, the water horses, the kelpies, they were kind of like an old fireside story. And the idea that mist seemed to hide old worlds, like the veils between modern and ancient were actually only a thin curtain of weather I quite like the idea of that one actually, because I swear there are certain corners of this country where that is the case. Because you can still find little nooks and crannies where the people still live like you would imagine they would live 200 or 300 years ago. It's getting rarer, but I like to suppose that these are some of these old worlds that hide beyond the mist. But like always, some of these stories change slightly every single time they're retold. And of course, everybody knows the main legend of Loch Ness. Nessie herself, in fact she is a she. But like many, she's kind of treated gently and almost humorously. You know, people have been imagining shapes beneath Loch Ness for centuries. Maybe it's the deep water that naturally invites stories. Or maybe the stillness leaves a little room for imagination. Well, it seems like the path's falling a little towards the water's edge. It's narrowing slightly beside the trees here. Morag's tail keeps brushing against the damp ferns as she's leading the way just now. It kind of reminds me of old camping trips when everything smelled of rain and really resiny pine needles. But I guess there's no need to think too hard just now. We can just keep following the path beside the water. You can see just over there. Yep, that's the headland on which Urquhart Castle is positioned. Can you just see it beginning to peek around the corner? Maybe we'll get a better look at it soon. Oh, this is such a nice little spot up ahead, don't you think? Well, how about we set up camp just about here? Yeah, why not? That'll do. Look at this, oh wow. The trees just open up right on the shores here. And the stones are nice and small, which means hopefully we can get a comfier sleep than last night. Without any big jaggedy things trying to poke us in the back. What do you think, Morag? Do you approve? Are you knackered? Yeah? Take that as a yes. Alrighty. Bags down. Oh. Ooh. Tired. Okay. Shall we get a wee fire going? Gather some wood? Yeah. Alrighty, well, how about you get the things unpacked from the bag, get the tents rolled out, and I will try my best to gather a bit of dry wood, or at least some kindling. What have you? We've got Urquhart Castle sat right there in front of us. You could not ask for a more scenic place to spend the evening. We're so lucky. all those people on the banks of Loch Lomond rubbing shoulders, where they might have been up this way, enjoying such peace and quiet on the Great Glen Way instead. Do you want a hand? You okay? All good. Alrighty, that'll do. Hopefully this gets going fairly easily. Damp wood can be really annoying. But some of this bracken looks dry enough at least. Right, here goes nothing. Big money, big money, big money, big money. Whee! First time. Come on. There she goes. She's just starting to go. Come on. Here we go. Sometimes she just needs a wee bit of encouragement. Beautiful. Alright. We're cooking on gas now. Metaphorically speaking, of course. We are going to be quite literally cooking on fire. Can I interest you in a steaming cup of tea? Aye, alright then. We'll get some water on at least, and then we can have ourselves a nice wee cuppa whilst we're toasting a marshmallow. Can pop that down by the fire. It will probably take a good few minutes before it's ready, but that's okay, we're in no rush. Oh, thanks for getting all the stuff out of the bags. Tents are looking good. The light's definitely fading quite quickly, isn't it? Does that, doesn't it, when the clouds aren't far away, but you know what, it does look like we may get a wee sunset of sorts. The sun's so low now that it's almost peeking through underneath the cloud line. But it's also kind of mixing with those rain clouds over there. Just the beginnings of a rainbow. Amazing. Yeah, look at that. A rainbow over Urquhart Castle. Postcard perfect. Urquhart Castle, eh? Have we read much about it before? I haven't. I think we learnt about it at school, but that's a very long time ago. So my information is probably slightly holy, as in holy with holes in it, not the religious type. But I think, like many Scottish castles, Urquhart Castle spent about 500 years just doing what castles in Scotland did best, which was just getting attacked, changing owners, being set on fire, and dramatically overlooking a body of water. That's what many of them do best, isn't it? But yeah, being built beside Loch Ness, it was a strategically important place because whoever controlled the castle controlled a major route through the Highlands. And it also got an excellent view in case Nessie surfaced. Or when, because there is no ifs, it's when. But over the centuries it seemed to bounce between the Scots and the English during the Wars of Independence. And it was repeatedly smashed up by clans, and I think eventually the government just blew parts of it up somewhere in like the 1600s because basically they didn't want anybody else to use it, which is really the theme of many castles in Scotland. You'd think they were respected for what they were, but it was really just a stronghold that was useful when it was in the hands of themselves, but they didn't want anyone else to use them. So goodness knows how many times they got damaged and burned. But classic Scottish property management, I think you'll agree. Nah, we don't want that anymore. Just destroy it. We'll worry about the rest later. And then 10 years passes and then like, oh, we could do with a castle there, you know. It's like all housing here. Anyway. Today, apart from looking rather spectacular under this low sun, as the rain does seem to be advancing, its main defensive role appears to be resisting selfie sticks, surviving the acoustics of the bagpipes, and appearing in approximately 100% of all Loch Ness photographs, including ours, probably. I can take one of you if in a bit, if you like. No judgment, it's very pretty. Marshmallow time? Cup of tea time? Alright. Hold out your cup, please. Here you are. Thanking you. Beautiful. Can keep the hot water hot for now. Have yourself. Here we go. A wee marshmallow. Here's a wee stick. Toast away, my friend. Cheers. Well done for another wonderful day's walk. I loved every second of it. It was so relaxing. And not quite as tiring as the previous days, so much appreciated. Yes, you too, Morag. We couldn't have done it without you. Are you missing your friends on the farm? Isla? Patch? Gammy the deer? How about Fox? Been hanging out with her lately? Maybe we'll get another wee story of you soon, yeah? Sounds good. Well, if we're going to get a story of you, then you need to go on an adventure, so it's either going to be a story of your point of view of our walk, or you're going to have to go on a new one. I don't know if we ever did hear about how you and Isla got back from Edinburgh, actually. So unless you feel like continuing that, I'll leave it with you, Morag, alright? Bless her, look at her. Tired. I think she stopped listening to me about 30 seconds ago. Here we are, we've got ourselves a roaring fire now, and already the resident cat is catting and curled up, all nice and toasty, soaking in that heat. Could stay here for a long time, you know. It's only when you do head out on longer adventures or walks like this that you do genuinely start to forget the stresses in your life, don't you? Or maybe it's more just healthier perspective on them, because sitting here just now with this stunning view and nothing but soothing nature surrounding us, it just doesn't make any sense to be worrying about anything that we would be tempted to worry about any other time. It stops mattering because we've actually gained ourselves some perspective. I do think it's very healthy and something that more of us should do more often. How can you not love that? Loch Ness is just a beautiful thing to behold. Its water is so dark that it reflects the clouds like polished stone. All the little tiny ripples moving outward from unseen fish. It almost has the appearance of being silver at dusk. Kind of seems like the wind's dropped a little. It was like surprising quiet. Apart from the crackling of the fire, there's very little noise, isn't there, as the evening rolls gently in. But I don't know about you, but I can just start to feel the odd raindrop. Can you? Yeah, morags already stirring. Water falling out the sky, her least favourite thing. I don't even think it is. I don't think she minds the rain, really. Yeah, there's a bit of drizzle gathering on your eyelashes. I can see it from here. Well, let's give it a couple of minutes then, eh? Can finish our marshmallows. Enjoy it. The tea will hold off the chill for a little while, won't it? Yeah. If you look out across the water, you can just see the rain dimpling the surface in endless, overlapping circles. It's not wet rain, it's kind of that slightly heavier mist just now. And just as we suspected, there is the sun cutting right the way through it, and that rainbow is getting stronger and stronger. Oh, wow. Who needs a pot of gold when the view itself is more than enough? We've got all the wealth we need right where we are. Just us two, and our wee pal Morag. Shall we retreat? Whilst we're not too wet, otherwise we'll never dry out. The fire will keep going. We might still feel the heat from inside in the doorway of the tent anyway, as long as we don't close the door too much. Okay. Morag, let's get ourselves inside. After you, Hen. Go on. Everybody in? Alrighty, I'll just shut the door a wee bit. Hopefully that'll keep most of the rain out without completely obstructing our view. Here we go. It's almost like looking through a perfect little portal into the Scottish wild. It is nice and cosy in here, isn't it? Well, cheers again. It's a lovely cup of tea, isn't it? Where are you off to, Morag? I see, right. Curling up at the back of the tent. Who'd have thought it? She'll probably start purring again in a minute. She does tend to do that, doesn't she, when she's settled for the night. I honestly don't know where I'd rather be. This is my idea of absolute heaven. Going for a long, fresh walk through one of Scotland's most beautiful parts. In good company, so that I don't feel too lonely. Obviously with a cat in tow helps, but not absolutely essential, but don't tell her I said that. But with a view like that, a castle framed perfectly in the doorway of our wee tent, light drizzle falling from the skies above, catching in the sunlight. Don't know if there's anything more magical. Certainly not in real life anyway. No, this really is what dreams are made of. And, I think I'm incredibly lucky to be able to experience anything like this. I've never been one, I don't know about you, but I've never been one for aspiring to have fancy things or go fancy places or just give me a tent or a very basic camper van if we're being really picky and luxurious. But yeah, give me a tent and some wild nature and a lovely, toasty, crackling fire. Maybe a marshmallow. definitely a cup of tea. And tell me to ignore what time it is. Tune out of any thoughts I have spinning around my head. And just give me the opportunity to lose myself in the present, not counting the minutes or the seconds, just allowing time to pass at the rate that time wants to pass at. And I am a very happy and contented man, because I don't really know what else I would rather have. I know that happiness isn't the result of fancy lives or spending money or being as busy as is possible to be. It's certainly not about showing off or oversharing your life. If anything, it's probably more to do with quietly living an exciting life. Quietly. Take a moment or two for yourself. Take all the moments for yourself if you want to. You don't need to tell anyone what you're doing or why you're doing it, because privacy is almost a rare thing these days. Something to be cherished. Only making decisions for you and the people that you care about, just because you want to, not because you think it will look or feel a certain way in other people's eyes, just taking care of your own desires and needs. And I know that's why you're here as well. Because you answered that desire inside. You've chosen to do what you know matters. To live and experience simple but meaningful things without worrying about what anyone else will think about them. Yes, we don't need that pot of gold at the end of that rainbow, because this is as wealthy as I could ever dream of being. So thank you for listening to me all day, and I hope you found our adventure rather comforting. Tea's made me sleepy. I hope you don't mind. I might just close my eyes for a bit. The sound of the rain on the tent roof is knocking me out as we speak. in real time. I can see your eyes getting a little heavier as well. Morag's off, she's purring away. Well, if you need anything, you know where I am. I'll always be here for you. If you need to talk about anything or get anything off your chest, you know where I am. I'm just here.